Has the whistleblower been identified? Reports are out right now. Also, voting to start an official impeachment inquiry. Journos fact-checking a Medal of Honor dog doctored photo. Facebook versus Twitter on political ads. And punished for offensive Halloween costumes? That and more coming up. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. It's a rainy, dreary Thursday here in New York City. A great day to be hanging out with all of you, though, in the Freedom Hut, where we are kept warm and dry by our love of country. That's right. That's how we do. I want to start with something that's not the biggest news story of the day, because I'm getting sick of the biggest news story every day, which is, impeachment. I'll tell you, I'll bring you up to speed. I want you to know everything that's going on in the news, so I have to tell you what that means about impeachment and where we are now and all these different members of Congress giving these addresses to the American people about the sanctity of our democracy. Oh, gosh. After a while, it all starts to blend together. But I wanted to start with something that's a little different than that. Why do you watch or listen to this show? It's a question that probably comes up whenever you turn it on, whenever you start thinking about who you listen to, who you spend your time with. I would hope that one of the reasons, I'm hoping there are many reasons. You learn stuff, you enjoy the show. I certainly love doing it. But I'm also a pretty normal person, meaning that I have not been ideologically brainwashed in a way where I can't find anything funny, I can't say anything nice about the other side. I try to approach all of this like a normal human being would. And that's not the case with much of the media. Many of you have probably already picked up on this, but the journos, as we like to call the journalist class, have been broken in the era of Trump. They have no longer been able to hold on to any professional integrity, any sense of decency, or even a sense of humor. They are now abnormal as compared to the American people because nothing is funny to them. Everything is, does this hurt Trump? Is this something that will be politically useful to my side? And I would think that after a while, anybody who is a reader of the New York Times, the Washington Post, or watches CNN would think, wow, all these people are kind of nuts. They're just not normal. There are problems here. I bring you a photo and hat tip Daily Wire for this fantastic photo. For those of you who are listening and can't see it, I can just describe it to you. It is Conan. We're calling him Conan the Barbarian in here, which I think is kind of fun. The Conan movies don't really hold up all that well. There are a few great lines and a few great scenes, but I'm not sure that they're going to be in the pantheon of all-time greats. But Conan the Barbarian, or Conan the Belgian Malinois that was part of the raid to take out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, there's a Photoshop meme, a photoshopped meme that the Daily Wire put out of this dog Conan. Or do we say Conan? Because I know it's Conan O'Brien, but I always felt like it was Conan the Barbarian. They put out this photo, and they also then took a photo of President Trump putting a Medal of Honor on an actual Medal of Honor recipient, and they made this. It's a funny meme, okay? You see this, and there is no way. This is the equivalent in terms of the realism of the memes that are out there of George Bush on the back of a velociraptor with an American flag sticking off the back of the raptor and machine guns in each hand, or Ronald Reagan flying around with an AR-15 in each hand on the back of a bald eagle. I mean, those funny memes that are out there. This was a funny meme. Not a single adult in America looked at this and thought, oh, wow, the President of the United States is putting a Medal of Honor on a dog right now? Not a single person thought that. And not a single person beyond that, I would think, would take offense to this or think that they need to do a fact check of it. But my friends, we live in stupid times, and the journalist class is in full-on disintegration and disarray. And that's why we have people like Steve Herman at Voice of America, who tweeted out the following about a photo, a doctored photo, photoshopped of Conan, the Belgian Malinois from the Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi raid, getting the Medal of Honor from President Trump. Steve Herman tweeted out, "I've requested details from the White House on this photo. There was no such canine event on today's POTUS schedule, but there's a Medal of Honor ceremony set here for later today for an active duty Green Beret." Oh. Make sure you get us all the facts on that one. Make sure you let us know. Jim Acosta, who is really in a class by himself for vain, stupid, Anchorman style from the movie, I mean, Anchorman, you know. He's the guy who really would read from the teleprompter, "I am Ron Burgundy." But CNN thinks that he's a great journalist. Oh, he's doing such great stuff over there. Really brings a lot of insight and integrity to the position. The New York Times tweeted out, President Trump on Wednesday shared a photograph from 2017, altered to show him placing a medal around the neck of the dog injured in the raid that led to the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the Islamic State's leader. Thank you for that fact check, New York Times. So very, very important. Jim Acosta tweeted out, a White House official said, quote, "The dog is not at the White House." Oh, thank heavens. I'm not exaggerating this. The New York Times did 2 stories on this meme. Okay, the premier liberal newspaper in the country. 2 stories on this meme. They had a couple of reporters on it. And there was even an effort among some of the journos to suggest that this was disrespectful, because this is one of the favorite lines of attack against Trump, that he's disrespectful to wounded veterans, that he's... Meanwhile, every veteran that I've ever spoken to, and I speak to a lot of them, thinks that President Trump is great. With a couple of exceptions who happen to be Democrats in the public eye who serve. But other than that, every veteran that I just meet and talk to is always like, President Trump is doing a great job. I'm not saying that that's scientific or that's based on any polling data or anything. It's just my perception of it. Media, though, always trying to convince us that veterans don't like Trump. Ask a door kicker. Ask somebody who's on the front line, tip of the spear, how they tend to feel about this president. I would offer you that for door kickers, not for people who are, I mean, I was an intelligent civilian, but not for people who are in the rear with the gear. The door kickers, you probably would have 75 to 90% of them supportive of President Trump. That's just my estimate. That's just a guess, but that's what I would think. But there were people who were suggesting that this was disrespectful. A meme that was hilarious to any normal person, which is, again, why I said I do a show where I do a lot of research and bring some background, but I'm a normal person. I'm not one of these journos. I don't care that I'm never going to be invited to the Columbia Journalism Review banquet, or, I'm not going to get invited to, Jeff Zucker's birthday party or something on a yacht somewhere. Like, I don't care. I don't want to be around those people. I don't respect those people. I don't care. And I think that normal people generally take that opinion. People who have not been propagandized to the point where they can't separate out their politics from just being a person. But they wanted to start this start this story that the meme was disrespectful. The problem with that is that the actual Medal of Honor winner that they cropped out of the photo to put the dog in thought it was hilarious. Went on the record, he's like, yeah, that's really funny. Because he's also not just a hero, a true hero, but a normal person. Normal people across the country all recognized that this was a funny joke. The journalists did not think it was funny. The journalists wanted to track the story down, wanted to find answers. How could is this fake news? The president sharing a meme of a dog getting the Medal of Honor. I don't know. I really hope they chase down whether Ronald Reagan really flies around on the back of a velociraptor with bazookas in each hand. I think they need to get us the answers we deserve on that one. The media has become beyond parody. You cannot trust them. You should not trust them. I hope you know that at this point. There are some people in the media you can trust. There are even some organizations that I'd say by and large you can trust. But the mainstream media, the 90% of journalists that hate Trump, that hate Republicans, that hate the Republican Party as it is right now, you cannot trust them for anything. I mean, I used to say I would read the New York Times just so I could have the food reviews and the cultural stuff. But even now, that's all woke. That's all social justice infused. Nothing escapes this mindset. I really do think that liberalism in this country, leftism, has turned into a mass delusion. And the sufferers of this delusion have no escape from it now. It pervades every aspect of their lives. It is an everything and all of the above malady. And with that, why don't we now take a dive together into impeachment, which I have been telling you for, I think, 2 years was going to happen, and now it is happening because we know the Democrats are crazy, and this is all a sham.
Colonel Vindman says what he heard on the president's call is so concerning that he worried that it might undermine U.S. national security. Does it concern you? Are you worried about the president's behavior at all?
Look, I'm not going to question the patriotism of any of the people who are coming forward. The action is in the House now.
But what do you make of these allegations?
I said I'm not going to comment on the merits of what's going forward. We're watching what happens in the House.
I don't think Mitch... I don't know if he really understands the gravity of what's going on here. Or maybe he just still doesn't like Trump and is doing a little bit of fence sitting as we go into the day of the vote. And producer Mark, right? The vote's has it already happened? Yeah, it's already happened. So they voted to have an official impeachment inquiry. Before it was the pre-official impeachment inquiry, which I think should raise some very interesting questions about, well, under what authority then were they bringing in witnesses and putting people under oath, and just because they felt like it? Okay. They really are just making this all up as they go along. So Mitch says he won't, and remember, the Senate's going to play a very important role in all of this. How does the Senate handle, and therefore how does leadership, Mitch McConnell, handle an impeachment that will come from the House? They will vote, they will have articles of impeachment, they will vote in favor, and they will push it on for a Senate trial. That's going to happen. I have almost no doubt in my mind. I mean, I'm 95% certain that this will make its way through the House into a Senate proceeding. And theoretically, that Senate proceeding could remove the President of the United States in an election year. You know, we all act under these assumptions that, well, things will just more or less continue as they are. I mean, this is, people talk about this as black swan theory or fat tail theory, which is when you look at graphs of probability. What are the chances of a low probability, high impact scenario? And right now, any kind of removal in the Senate would certainly be very, very low probability. It would be enormous impact, however. And it is worth remembering that even putting this close to a removal, even getting to that stage of the process, is such an abuse of what is supposed to be happening here, of what the real intent is that the founders. This is a political dispute that now the Democrats are trying to use process once again. They're so inept at making political arguments to the American people because their ideas are now just bonkers level bad. I mean, Medicare for all is a crazy idea. It's a bad idea for America. Okay. Open borders is a bad idea for America. Abortion at all 9 months of a pregnancy, including the last day and after, bad idea. These are all things that they won't be able to sell to 51% of the voting population. They just won't be able to do it, or enough votes that they would win the Electoral College. And so they're always looking for these other ways, these other schemes, these artifices that they can use in order to subvert this president. And you ask, okay, well, at what point do the people revolt against this? I mean, yesterday I asked you, when does California recognize that, and enough Californians recognize that the state has made terrible decisions, people are really suffering, and it is on a steep decline as a place in this country. The entire state, really, with obviously some exceptions, I'm sure. When do independent voters, undecided, because I can't even speak to Democrats anymore on this stuff. The overwhelming majority of Democrats that I try to talk to about this know that we are so hyper-polarized. You know, you're either on my team or on the other team. And they are willing to justify anything in order to prevent Trump from being president for 4 more years. One thing they haven't really considered, by the way, also in this whole mess that we are seeing right now, what would happen if they were successful in removing this president? Do they really think that the movement that Trump represents would just go away? Do they think that the faith in the elites would return? That the media would once again have credibility with a majority of the American people? One part of this, and this is where you get into the psychology of the anti-Trump left, and just anti-Trump in general, because as we know, there are anti-Trumpers on, or at least theoretically on the right, many of them still. We're not going back to a pre-Trump era. I think they haven't come to grips with this yet. There's not going to be politicians come from this class that the media approves and says are okay, and there are certain ways they can talk and certain ways they can communicate. You're not allowed to venture outside of that, or else there will be consequences. At what point will they come to understand that those are not the rules that we're going to play by anymore? That Trump has shown us, he has exposed so much of the underbelly of the ruling class in this country. We do have a ruling class in America, comprised of people from the media, academia, high-end financial services, and they like the system as it has been. And they want certain people who also come from these elite institutions, these colleges where, now it doesn't even, where you go to school, I can't tell if someone's smart or not based on where they go to school. And anyone who thinks they can doesn't know what they're talking about. But there is this class structure that exists. And what Trump has done is show us that there are many, many people who want to pretend that they have competence when what they really just have are credentials. This is true inside and outside of government. It's true with politicians as well. Who will ever forget Nancy Pelosi, a master legislator? No, Nancy Pelosi is a self-interested left-wing ideologue who will do whatever she has to do at any point in time to maintain and wield power. It's really like having the instincts of a mafia boss, but in the United States Congress. Oh, can I say mafia boss? They call Trump a mafia boss all the time. Are we allowed to use that one too, or no? Unacceptable.
House Democrats released their much-hyped resolution, which was advertised as bringing fairness and due process into Speaker Pelosi and Chairman Schiff's closed-door partisan inquiry. Unfortunately, the draft resolution that has been released does nothing of the sort. It falls way short, way short.
Yeah, of course the process is going to be preposterous. And I just hope that Mitch McConnell, the best thing in my opinion that he could do going forward would be when this is passed on to him in the Senate, it should just be dead on arrival. Just done. Just they should show through the process maximum disrespect for the manipulations of the process that have taken place in the House of Representatives under Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. They should just shut this thing down as fast as they can and learn a lesson from Trump here. They do not want you they do not want to be fair. The Democrats do not want to play nice. They're not looking to make a case. I see all these reports about, why aren't Republicans turning on Trump? Why aren't Democrats are surprised that Republicans aren't turning on Trump over the Ukraine phone call? They really think that Republicans are going to turn on Trump over that? Over a thing that put everything else aside, a thing that did not happen, and that would not have been illegal even if it did happen. They think the President of the United States should be removed from office for that? I would ask rhetorically, are they serious? But unfortunately, the answer is yes, they are serious. I sit here, jaw agape, wondering what it's going to take for... I certainly hope that there will be a moment of retribution, politically speaking. There'll be a real backlash that comes from all of this. And I also hope that there will be some in the media who are held to account. I mean, here's just one example. This guy, Joe Scarborough, who I still to this day, I've never met anybody, and I know a lot of libs, a lot of leftists. I've never met anybody who likes this show. I think that the head of NBC and like a few dozen of his Hamptons and golf buddies like it, and that's probably, I know the audience numbers have never been big. it's considered an elite influence show, but I mean, they don't even get into the whole, Joe left his family, Mika left her family. They were on air. They weren't telling people. I mean, there was a lot of stuff there that everyone just sort of said, okay, I mean, fine, whatever. But Joe Scarborough takes this line that Republicans who won't go along with impeachment, well, I'll let Joe say it himself. 16.
Everybody knows. Republicans know. The White House knows. There was a quid pro quo. It was there. So the more the president denies that quid pro quo, the more he assures himself that he's going to be impeached. Now, the president, of course, and Republicans were talking about how unpopular this impeachment inquiry would be several weeks ago, a month or so ago, saying that Americans wouldn't support it. It is interesting today that as we move toward the vote, the overwhelming majority of Americans in poll after poll after poll
they don't like
support this impeachment inquiry. And really, they agree with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats. So we'll see what Republicans want to not only be on the wrong side of history here, but also want to be on the wrong side of the American people.
And the more people that come forward and testify, it just becomes impossible to debunk what happened. So it's very questionable as to why the Republicans keep going here.
It's
Still
just,
ahead.
It's a personality cult or just blind loyalty.
It's still.
And the more people who come out and say this, oh, good heavens. I mean, I was speaking to my gardener and my chauffeur, and they're just up in arms about what Donald Trump is doing. In the helicopter to the vineyard, the pilot told me, oh, gosh, it's just, we need impeachment. Who listens to these people? Based on what? I still... They were buddy with Trump when it was good for them, and now that they weren't in the inner circle anymore, they've gone all in scorchers, both of them, against Donald Trump. They're the Scaramucci's of MSNBC. The Mooch, I remember the Mooch at Fox. Everything the president does is fantastic. I love this president. He's amazing. He's changing America. He's incredible. I'm going to be White House communications director. It'll be fantastic. He does a terrible job, gets fired like a buffoon. And now all of a sudden it's Trump is like a fat loser, he'll say on TV. I mean, he'll say this horrible, just attack him. Why do I want to listen to people who have no personal loyalty about personal loyalty? Mika, Joe, Mooch, any of them. Do we ever get an answer about this? No, of course not. But there's also a sleight of hand that takes place here. Poll after poll shows support for the impeachment inquiry. Well, that's because the way the impeachment inquiry is being set up, they're making it seem like it's a fact-finding mission. And so people who don't really dig into the details go, well, an inquiry doesn't say, why don't they call it an investigation, by the way? Have you noticed that? Investigation would be a more accurate description of this. Why is it an inquiry? I don't think that that's something that you can just let slide. I think that there's the Democrats, the left, as we know, are obsessed with language and the control of language as a means of propaganda. That's why they want us to use undocumented instead of illegal alien, which is the correct legal term. That's why they want us to use the pronoun that they dictate, whatever it may be. By making you say things in a certain way, they can make you think in a certain way over time. And impeachment inquiry. They should just call it I actually think they should call it the impeachment inquisition, because that's really what it is. There are no due process rights for the people involved or for the president of the United States himself. And yet the reason they call it that is because they want to convince people that there's something necessary, there's something fair going on here. Oh, it's just an inquiry. Don't we want the facts? We just want the facts. After the 2 years of the Mueller special counsel, now we need this. Another process of investigation against this president. You know what one of the big problems they have is? They can't really make a case against the policy in a way that's effective. They can whine and complain and say, oh, nobody has insurance. First of all, Obamacare passed. I thought that was going to solve the uninsured problem. But now Bernie Sanders is out there with 30 million. Out of 30 million, it could be 300 billion. I don't even know. Numbers don't matter. But we got 30 million people don't have insurance. They go into a doctor's office and they say, excuse me, but this procedure will cost $1 million. And then the doctor says, do you have a check for $1 million? I mean, no, this is not how any of it works. This is not the truth, but I really just wanted to do my Bernie impression for you. They can't win on the policy level. They understand that going into this election, their candidates are weak. They're weak. Every poll, where have you heard every poll before, brother? Every poll says that people support the impeachment inquiry, we are told. Every poll says that in a head-to-head matchup, like 5 of the top Democrats beat Donald Trump nationally. Why so worried, Democrats? Why so unwilling to just let the American people vote? If, in fact, what they say is true, that there's such support for the impeachment inquiry, why not accept that the American people then can cast their real votes on the impeachment inquiry come election day? Wouldn't that be a much more fair-minded and responsible, from the perspective of protecting and supporting the institutions of this country and keeping us at least somewhat willing to have open dialogue between left and right in politics? Wouldn't that be a much better idea? Trump is such a terrible politician, they would tell you. He's so awful at the job that they're afraid he'll beat them a second time, which is what we all know is going on here. They're worried, and they should be worried. Right now, you have Democrats who are able to run around with the press completely in their pocket, doing whatever they want, saying whatever they want, and there must be a recognition that when there's finally one candidate who comes out of this primary who's going to have to stand up and deal with Donald Trump, people will be able to make a one-to-one comparison and say, the crazy person who believes in Medicare for all, including illegal aliens, I don't think that's going to fly. Elizabeth Warren, for whatever it's worth, had this to say about how she would handle President Trump in the debates. Play 4, please.
You don't back down from a bully. I never have and I never will. But we also have to realize Donald Trump runs his own show. And as much as we're going to let him run that show, he'll keep right on doing it. My goal is to tap into all of the Americans who are just getting tired of the Donald Trump show. It's just getting old and it's getting boring. And that's what's starting to happen. We won't get everybody. I understand that. But we got a lot of America, a lot more than 50% of America, that is tired of the ugliness, that is tired of the name calling, that is tired of the disgusting behavior, that is tired of the fact that we now have a president of the United States who embarrasses us around the world, who cuts and runs on allies who stood with us and fought alongside us.
I'm embarrassed by Elizabeth Warren out there being so tired of not winning. I'm tired of all the things, tired of the bully. She's gonna stand up to the bully. She's been standing up to bullies her whole life. She's also been pretending to be a Native American her whole life. But that didn't work out so well in the end. That's who you want to put in charge of the country? Somebody who's never run a business, has a not even a rudimentary understanding of how economics really works, and who has perpetuated a racial fraud to advance herself for decades. I don't find that compelling. I don't find that compelling at all. Could you imagine what they'd be saying if President Trump had failed in the ways that they all said that he would, that the economy would implode, that we would have dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria? Instead, what we have is a country that's actually doing quite well, and a bunch of Democrat candidates who are flailing. And everybody knows they don't want, the establishment Democrats don't want to remove their support from Joe Biden because they feel like any movement at this point will be seen as a sign of weakness. But they've got to know that they're not backing the right horse in this race. And that's where Pelosi comes in. And that's where Schiff comes in, trying to do something to cheat a little bit, trying to do something to skew the race in their favor. The process and fairness and decency be damned. I do not know of anybody other than Donald Trump who would be able to deal with this. I really don't. The efforts to destroy him, the efforts to ruin his presidency, and just the brazenness of so many in the media who refuse to accept that that's exactly what they're doing. That's what they've been doing all along. Why can't we just be honest about this? Why can't they be honest about this? No, instead we have people telling us that the country will be so much better if we just give Elizabeth Warren Give her the reins of government. She'll make sure that those fat cats pay for everything. She reminds me of a librarian in high school who really took a particular pleasure in giving those fines when you didn't give the book back in time. Young man, that'll cost you 2 bits. 2 bits. That book was 3 hours late. What if one of your classmates wanted it? Soon to be the leader of the free world, everybody. Maybe.
Do we see largely that it's the global south and communities of color that may be bearing the brunt of the initial havoc from climate change?
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
And in terms of that wealth, the people who are producing climate change, the folks that are responsible for the largest amount of emissions, or communities or corporations, they tend to be predominantly white, correct?
Yes, and every study backs that up.
That's a pretty stunning exchange there with Ocasio-Cortez, isn't it? Climate change, my friends, is now going to be an issue somewhat like affirmative action, where the central planners of the left want to engage in a racial equity and an issue of racial justice. How is that supposed to work exactly? So we're going to be told that the global north, I assume she means divided by the equator, north and south, and that you have predominantly non-white communities to the south of the equator, and then to the north, obviously America and Europe and parts of Asia, where I guess people are, I don't know if that's considered global north in the Ocasio-Cortez formulation, but people have lighter skin. And, generally speaking, this is now going to be one of the things you hear. This is how climate change. I thought about this because when I told you about how crazy the left is getting, they really do want us to engage in a global redistribution of wealth because of climate change. This is Marxism beyond any, although true Marxism, of course, is international and was from the very beginning. But this is the redistributive mechanisms within a Marxist ideology expanded to include the entire world, which that really has not been done before. That would be a first. We, who in the developing world have created more of the more CO2, which is another way of saying, CO2 is effectively in a modern economy a proxy for economic activity. But I would like to know, I'd like to ask Ocasio-Cortez, so if we, meaning Americans of all colors and ethnicities and backgrounds, by the way, and, we, or they, I guess, in Europe, in predominantly white countries, but also have people of all ethnicities and backgrounds and religious persuasions. But if we're going to be held responsible for CO2, for climate change, in a way that we then have to pay off the developing world, how does the developing world thank us for computers and antibiotics and electrical grids and electricity generation? I'm just wondering, where does that factor into all of this? If we're going to do this social justice for the world based on CO2 emissions, does the rest of the world have to at least say thank you to the developed world, which now, of course, includes Japan and China, or China is kind of in its own category these days. Did they say thank you, or did we just give them money after giving them and giving the whole world the benefit of the civilizational advances of America and Europe and Japan and South Korea? But, when does that factor in? Or is this only a conversation in the very narrow scope of what Ocasio-Cortez wants it to be? Somebody who, once again, I would not trust to run a popsicle stand somewhere.